Okay, in this vid we are going to do a quick overview of CSS positioning. We did a little trial by fire on CSS positioning with the flower mockup, but here we're going to back up now that we've gotten our hands a little dirty, seen how it works, and talk about the theory or whatever of CSS a little bit more. Okay, so we have these three divs. Here's our styles. This is the rectangle. Here are the three squares, and there's our HTML. I don't know if we've talked about these embedded styles, but you can put a style sheet right in the head of your document like this. Okay, so first we're going to talk about 5 things in this video. We're going to talk about floats, position relative, position absolute, display, and margin and padding. Okay, first floats. If I float this yellow div left, that's going to stay in the same place because it's already all the way left. But this div is going to pop up because this floated element will no longer take up that height that it's currently taking up. Float left, pow. Okay, now if I float that right, it'll do the same thing, but it'll go all the way right as far as it can. Okay, so I think we get why it's floating left and right. That makes sense. It just goes as far left or right as it can when you do float in the direction. But why isn't it taking up space? Well, floats take things out of the flow of content. That means the space it was taking up is no longer being taken up. Now when we talk about floats, we have a nice little trick we can use. Overflow hidden will restore that height of the container parent back. We'll get to the overflow in a minute. First, let's float the red div right. Now check out the order that these go in. The yellow's already right. And now the red, because it was higher than the yellow in the original markup, in the original layout, the red goes to the right first, then the yellow goes as far right as it can, but the red's already there, so it goes here. So that order was a little counterintuitive to me when I got started. If we float the black one right, the black one will go all the way to the end, so it'll be black, red, yellow. Check this out. Okay, cool. So does that make sense? The top element gets floated all the way in that direction first, then the next element down gets floated as far as it can, and so on. Also notice that this takes up no height anymore because all 3 elements inside it have been floated, and they don't take up any space. So let's talk about overflow hidden. Overflow hidden will pop. If we put overflow hidden on this rectangle, it'll pop this back into the height of what it currently has, which would be like 1 square's worth of height. Okay, so we put overflow hidden on the rectangle, and now it takes up space again. These elements take up space, so this takes up the amount of space that these take up. Why overflow hidden? Well, it's kind of a weird byproduct. Overflow hidden means if we push something out of this, it won't be able to be seen. Whereas if you push something out of this without overflow hidden, you still can see it, even though it's outside of the parent element. A nice side effect of overflow hidden is that it makes an element take up space even if there are floated elements inside it. It's kind of random, but it's nice. So you just want to memorize that. Let's talk about clears. One thing with floats is that you can clear something, and that means, hey, don't let me be next to another floated element. You can clear something left, you can clear something on the left side, you can clear something on the right side, or you can clear it on both sides. So check this out. If we clear the red div on the right, it's going to push the yellow and the red down. Pow. Okay, so why? Well, this guy got floated right as far as it can. The red gets floated right as far as it can, but it can't have anything next to it. And the yellow now is floating right as far as it can. So the yellow and the red both got pushed down when we did the clear because they're in the same row. If we put clear right on the yellow, that'll get pushed down as well because it says, hey, don't let me be on the right side next to anything that's floating. Okay, so that's all well and good. let's talk about position relative. First, let's reset. Okay, so position relative pushes something from the direction you specify in the direction you specify. Let's do an example. So on the red div, let's say position relative left 20 pixels. So what this is going to do is push it from the left 20 pixels. Again, the direction here is a little counterintuitive. You have to remember that you're not pushing in the direction you specify, you're pushing from the direction you specify. It's a little weird, I know. Okay, so we have a left value on this. That's an X value. We can also have a Y value. Again, this will push from the direction, so it'll push from the top 20 pixels. And you can have negative values. Now watch this. If we push this from here, from the left 20 pixels, it would be out here. And it disappears. Why does it disappear? Well, we have overflow hidden on here. If we turn overflow hidden off on the rectangle, you can see that guy. So that's overflow hidden. You get it now. Let's talk about position absolute. Okay. Position absolute is pretty different than position relative. So just forget everything about position relative real quick. Position absolute does two things. It pushes in the direction you specify as far as it can, and then it pushes from that direction in the distance you specify. Two things. First thing, it pushes in the direction you specify as far as possible, and then it pushes from that direction the amount you specify. So that's kind of weird. I'll give you an example. We just change that to absolute. Check this out. Red div gets pushed all the way to the left. That's the first thing that happens. It gets here, and then it gets pushed, and it gets pushed all the way to the top because we said two directions, left 20 pixels, top 20 pixels, and then it gets pushed from the left 20 pixels and from the top 20 pixels. So it was here, pow, 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 okay? Now, note that it's not taking up space the same way that floats didn't take up space. Position absolute takes things out of the flow of content. Position relative does not. Floats do. Okay? Now, how does it know how far to push it with position absolute? That first thing it does, when it pushes it as far as it can in that direction. You'd think since it's inside the rectangle, it would stop at the edge of the rectangle. No. You can make it though, and that's by putting position relative on the container div you want. That's kind of weird sounding, so I'll just show you. If we put position relative on the rectangle, or position absolute, I might add, the container div is now this. So it was here in the middle, it got pushed all the way to the top left, and it got pushed left 20 pixels and down 20 pixels. So now it's here. And it's also not taking up any space in the flow of content. So it'll get pushed, like if we had another element here that did have position absolute or relative on it, and this one didn't, it would get pushed here. It goes out as far as it can until it hits something with position absolute or relative. Let's talk about flow of content versus overlap. So we've been looking at how when you take something out of the flow of the content, it doesn't take up any space. But let's talk about overlap real quick. So let's say I make the red div position relative, left 5 pixels, bottom 5 pixels. It is not going to get taken out of the flow of content, right? Because it's position relative. So that space where it originally was stays there as blank space now. But since we pushed it from the left 5 pixels and from the bottom 5 pixels, it's now overlapping that black div. Pretty weird, huh? That can make some real bad layout breaks. You know, if you end up pushing something over something with text, the text won't be readable, etc., etc. You got to be real careful with this stuff. So there's a difference between taking something out of the flow of content and being able to like overlap and mess things up real bad. Okay, so let's talk about display real quick. Divs are display block by default. What does display block mean? It just means it takes up 100% width. Now we have overridden that on these square divs by giving it a width 20 pixels. What happens if we take that off? I don't think we've talked about comment. You can remove a style without removing it just by putting it in a comment like this. That means, hey, ignore this. So these now are going 100% width because that's their default. They're display block. Headers are display block by default, you know, H1, H2, those kind of things. Divs are. Stuff like links are not. They are display inline by default. Let's add a link. This is a link. Okay, now to see that that is display inline and not display block, I'm going to throw a border on it. And that border is only going the width of the element. Now, you can make an inline element display block by putting display block on it. Now the border is going 100% width. It's taking up this whole thing. There's another handy property called display inline block, which is kind of a compromise. You can put it on an inline element and it will not go 100% width, but it'll still have all the other properties that a block element has. Like if we had a bunch of text in here and we wanted to use text-align center. Text-align center won't work on an inline element. It just won't do anything. But if it's a block element, it does. And then an inline block element, text-align center works. We did that in the footer in the flower mockup, like in the those little divs with the ray gun and the Texas image. Okay. So one last thing we're going to talk about here is margin and padding. We already went over it, but I just want to make sure we all have it down. So let's say I put margin on this. Margin is going to put space outside of the edge of the element in the amount I specify. So shorthand margin, you put one number, it's going to be the same margin on all four sides. Boom, 30 pixels, boom, 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 boom. Now let's put padding on this. What's that going to do? That's going to put space inside the element, inside the border. 30 pixels padding. Margin and padding have the same shorthand, so that's going to put 30 pixels on all four sides. Okay. Now, do you know your margin shorthands yet? Let's say we have 4 numbers for a padding like this. So what's this going to do? Padding 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 30 pixels, 40 pixels. Do you know? The first number's top, second number's right, third number's bottom, fourth number's right. What happens if we say 3 numbers? Do you know what's going to happen when we refresh? First number's top, second number's left and right, third number's bottom. How about 2 numbers? What's going to happen? Pop quiz. First number's top and bottom, second number's left and right. And we already know what happens if you have one number, same distance on all 4 sides. Okay. That's positioning. Floats, position relative, position absolute, display, margin and padding.